Gloria was the housekeeper for the Murdaugh family for more than 20 years. She literally helped raise Alex Murdaugh's sons, Paul and Buster.
Tell me about Gloria.
Gloria was special. You know, everyone referred to her as the Murdaugh's housekeeper. She was more than that. She was a sister. She was a mother. She was loved by all of us.
In 2018, the 57-year-old died after a trip and fall accident at the Murdaugh estate.
What's been reported is that she was at the house that day on the front steps. The dogs got a little rambunctious and gave her a push, and she fell down the stairs.
Back then, Satterfield's death was not questioned. Instead, it was ruled natural, and no autopsy was ever performed.
There's nothing natural about a 57-year-old woman falling down a flight of steps and dying from head trauma.
Alex Murdaugh, along with another attorney, had devised a scheme to sue his insurance company for the death of Gloria Satterfield, promising to give the money to Gloria's 2 surviving sons. The sons never saw what totaled to be $4.3 million.
Y'all, my name's Tony, one of Gloria's youngest sons.
That he used Gloria's death to enrich himself is horrible.
It's a heartbreaking situation.
Ruthless.
Heartbreaking.
Yes.
Ruthless.
Ruthless is the word for it.
Did the defendant ever tell you that he also had a $5 million umbrella policy?
No.
Did he ever tell you that there had been a recovery against that?
No.
Did he ever tell you that there had been a recovery for $3.8 million against that?
No.
Did he ever pay you 1 penny of $3.8 million?
No.
How often would you talk to the defendant?
3 to 4 times a year or something, I believe. I can't recall. Every few months.
Would you talk by phone or would you talk by text or both?
Both.
And when you would talk to him, would you ask about the status of your case?
Yes.
And each time you talked to him, what did he say?
It was making progress.
Making progress. Did he say it was a hard case or not?
Yes.
Did he ever tell you about how much money he might be able to get for you?
The goal was to get $100,000 apiece for me and my brother.
At any time over the years, did he ever tell you that there had already been a recovery in the case?
No.
At any time over the years, did he mention anything about having a $5 million umbrella policy?
No.
At any time, did he ever pay you 1 penny?
No.
I'm Alex Murdaugh, M-U-R-D-A-U-G-H. Good morning.
I'm just going to ask you this one. Do you remember looking Tony Satterfield in the eye and lying to him?
I remember lying to Tony Satterfield, and I remember looking him in the eye on many occasions.
And lying to him?
Yeah.
Lying to his family?
I lied to his family. I don't know if I did it in person, but I know I had phone conversations with him where I lied to him.
After the murders of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, the coroner asked that the investigation into Gloria Satterfield's death be opened. So SLED opened an investigation since her death was ruled natural and not an accident. There have been plans to exhume Gloria Satterfield's body, but to date, that hasn't happened. It's important to note that the Satterfield family does not believe that their mother was murdered.
Come here. 911, where's your emergency? 4147 Moselle Road. Okay, can you give me the address one more time, make sure I got it right? Yes, 4147 Moselle Road. Okay, what's going on out there? I'm sorry? What's going on out there? My housekeeper has fallen and her head is bleeding. I cannot get her up. Okay, you said she's fallen. She's bleeding from the head? Yes. Okay. How old is she? I'm not sure, like 58 maybe. Do you know if she fell from standing or not? No. No. Where'd she fall from? She fell going up the steps, up the brick steps. Okay, so she outside or inside?
Outside.
Okay. How many steps is there?
8.
Okay, is she on the ground or is she up near the
She's
top?
on the ground. She's on the ground. She's on the
Is she
ground.
conscious?
No, not really.
Is she awake at all?
Yes.
Okay. Is she just not, like, responding appropriately, but she is awake?
Man, she's not responding.
Okay, I've already got them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down, ma'am. Knowing if she's conscious is one of the things that the medic needs to know if she's responding
Not
at
really.
all to you.
No.
Okay, so she's not responsive at all.
Well, I mean, she's mumbling.
Okay, so she is somewhat conscious. Is she breathing okay?
Yes.
Is she bleeding from anywhere?
Yes, her head.
Okay, are you guys able to control the bleeding?
No.
Can you
I
put
haven't
a
even
clean
tried.
rag or anything on it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, is she bleeding from, like, her face, the back of the head,
I got
her
an
neck?
ambulance coming. Sir, my name what?
Where exactly is she bleeding from on her head?
I'm not sure. At the top of her head.
Okay.
What's it?
Okay.
Oh, God.
What happened?
She just fell back down. Can I get off this phone so I can go down there?
Can I have your name and phone number? Are you able to bring the phone down by her?
What?
Are you on a cell phone where you can walk down there
I'm
and
on
talk?
a cell phone. No.
Okay, can you bring it with you so we can ask her some questions about what kind of pain she's having?
Hello?
Yeah, can you ask the patient what kind of pain she's having?
Ma'am, she can't talk.
Okay, do you know,
She's cracked her head and there's blood on the concrete and she's bleeding out of her left ear.
okay, she's bleeding out of her ear?
And out of her head. She's cracked her skull.
Okay. All right, the other lady said that she had tried to stand up and fell down again?
No, I was holding her up. And
Okay.
she told me to turn her loose and she was trying to use her arm, but then she fell back over.
Okay, do you guys know who she is?
Yes, she works for us.
Okay, do you know if she's ever had a stroke or anything before?
Ma'am, can you stop asking her these
I
questions?
already have them on the way. I already have them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down in any way. These are relevant questions that I have to ask for the ambulance. One of my questions is, has she ever had a stroke?
I don't believe she's ever had a stroke now that I know
Okay.
of.
Okay, is she able to talk to you guys at all, or is she unconscious now?
She's not unconscious. She's just mumbling.
Okay.
I believe she's maybe hit her head and maybe has a concussion or something.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do you know what her name is?
Gloria Satterfield.
You said Sanderfield?
Ma'am?
You said Sanderfield?
Satterfield.
Satterfield. Okay, what's the house look like out there?
It's offset off the road.
Okay.
It's a big house, got a wide driveway.
With a long driveway?
Yeah,
Is there a gate or anything down there that they're going to need to come through?
There's two big brick columns they'll have to come through.
Okay, but there's no, like, gate code or anything that they need?
No, ma'am. And tell them that they can look for a fellow on a 6x6 Ranger.
Okay.
Waiting on them in the road is green. You know what they probably know what the Ranger looks like.
Yeah. You said, like,
Fella's
green.
got on a black sweater,
Okay.
a hat, and pants.
Okay. All right.
All right.
If something changes with her, if she loses consciousness or anything like that, I need one of you guys to call me back right away, okay?
Okay, well, how long is it going to take? Because this take us.
That I don't know. I've had them on the way since Maggie first called me. They were toned right away.
Okay.
All right, but I think they're coming. Hang on 1 minute. Let me check. They're coming from somewhere on Bells Highway in Ruffin, okay, that's where their station is.
Thank you.
All right, but like I said, if something changes, call me back.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
She died 3 weeks later.
Maggie called Alex first.
Eric Bland represents Gloria Satterfield's estate.
And he said that he booked it home from work. Gloria was bleeding, and she told him, the dogs tripped me. And so he said she blacked out after that.
We all went to the hospital. Alec didn't come to the hospital, and nobody else came the whole entire time she was there, the 3 weeks.
You don't believe your sister was killed?
Was murdered, no. We still think it was an accident.
You know, as I'm investigating or interviewing all the participants or all the people that were close with Paul at the time of Stephen's death, Paul and Buster, it becomes clear that a caretaker of the property, and I mean, when I say caretaker, I'm not talking like Gloria, who was a caretaker for the house, was a caretaker of the property who would plant trees and do that kind of stuff. He was very close with Paul. So I tracked him down and I interviewed him at his home, and all about Stephen. I was there to talk about Stephen Smith and about maybe Paul's relationship with Stephen. Specifically, if this guy had ever overheard any talk from Paul or his friends about Stephen. Figure at the time of Stephen's death, Paul was probably 17 years old. He's a kid, 16, 17 years old. Kids talk. So I pursued it from that aspect. As I was wrapping up, I was packing up my stuff to leave, and he mentions, well, it's kind of like the Satterfield thing. And I said, excuse me? And he goes, yeah, the Satterfield, you know, Gloria, I was there the day Gloria died. And I put my stuff down and I said, okay, let's back up. Let's talk about this for a minute. So he says, you know, I was there, I was over by the kennels, Gloria arrived, I saw her drive up on the property, we waved. She went to the house. A few minutes later, I get this frantic call from Maggie, Gloria's fallen, she's hurt, please come to the house right away. He rushes over to the house. He sees Gloria on the ground, on the stairs. I think Paul is talking to 911. Maggie's there. They try to render some aid to Gloria. Gloria is totally incoherent. She's not speaking. They're there for a while. EMS arrives. EMS removes Gloria, takes her to the hospital. So I said, well, wait a minute. When did Alex arrive? He goes, what are you talking about? Alex was never there. I said, Alex wasn't there at the time of the fall or before EMS arrived? He said, no, Alex was never there. Alex left earlier to go to work that morning. He didn't arrive back at the house till long after EMS was gone. And in a deposition Alex gave to the insurance company, he claims he was there, and she, Gloria, told Alex that the cause of the fall were the family dogs. She tripped over the dogs. That's not the case at all. Alex Murdaugh created that narrative, in my opinion, to deflect suspicion off of his son, Paul, because that's what Alex does. He takes care of Paul. He tried to do it in the boat murder of Mallory Beach, and you could tell by his sister-in-law's testimony, that's all he was concerned about, even after Paul's death, was clearing his name. So,
wow.
This is what I found out.
Wow.
And I don't believe Paul intended to kill Gloria. I believe they got into some type of altercation, just a verbal, you know, hey, look, I found some this, or maybe did you ever talk to your dad about the pills? I don't know what their conversation was. But Paul, who had a very aggressive and angry temper, just snapped, gave Gloria a little push. She tripped and fell down the stairs. I don't believe he intended to kill her. She just fell, but I believe she fell as a result of her confrontation with Paul. Now, that's just my opinion. And I think Alex jumped in to save Paul, like I said, like he always does. But absolutely, he then took advantage of the entire situation as purely a money-making scheme for himself. I totally agree with that.
And start off by filling me in as to how your day unfolded that day.
I went to work that morning and I received a phone call from my wife that Gloria was injured, seriously injured, and asking me if I could come home. I immediately left and headed to Moselle. It's about a 12 to 13 minute ride under normal circumstances, and I appreciated the fact that this was a serious injury, so I would estimate that I made it in probably 10 minutes or so. And upon arriving, found Gloria, my wife, my son Paul, and my employee Ronnie Freeman on we call it a patio, for lack of a better term, landing area at the bottom of the steps. Gloria was there, sitting up, big pool of blood, a lot of blood on the side of her face, and shortly after I arrived here, EMS arrived and tended to her.
Did you know Gloria was coming to your house that day?
I didn't.
Okay.
But
was that uncommon? Was that uncommon for Gloria to be here at your house?
Uncommon for her to be here?
Yeah. Was it? I mean, you said when you left for work that morning, you didn't know that Gloria was going to be coming to work. I mean, coming for any purpose to the house.
I didn't know that day.
Right.
My wife knew she was coming.
Okay. Did you, and when you talked with your wife, you understood that she was coming for what reason?
Gloria was coming to be paid. My mom inadvertently left town without paying Gloria for work and had asked Maggie to pay her on her behalf. And so Gloria was coming here to get paid.
Okay. And were you able to speak with Gloria before she was taken away in the ambulance?
I was.
Okay. Did you ask her what happened?
Sure, I asked her what happened. I mean, the first thing I was making sure that Gloria, I was trying to assess her mental capability at the time. Did she know where she was? Did she know what was going on? That type of thing. And, asking her if she knew me. Did she know Maggie? Did she know Paul? Did she know Ronnie? Did she know where she was? So
how was she responding to this?
She knew those things. She knew where she was. She knew who I was. I mean, she obviously was not functioning at full capacity, but she did. She knew those things.
Okay. And then the ambulance removed her, and did you follow the ambulance after that?
I did.
Okay.
I followed the ambulance to Colleton Hospital, and they were a little bit ahead of me. They lost me going through town. I was able to keep up with them in the rural parts, but in town they kept plugging away, and I slowed up, for the speed limits and traffic, and I'd say they got a few minutes ahead of me. So when I arrived at the hospital, they were actually loading Gloria onto the helicopter.
Okay. Now, here at your home, I know you and I covered a lot of information regarding the dogs you've got.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you just go down I think you said you have 4 dogs.
4 dogs. We have Bubba, who is a yellow lab, and he's the oldest. Estimate that he's probably 6 years old. We have Bourbon, who is a chocolate lab, who I estimate is probably 1.5 years old, maybe younger than that. I'd say 1.5 years at the oldest. We have Blue, who I estimate is 1 year old, and Blue is a Labrador Poodle mix, so a Labradoodle. And then we have Sassy, who is a German short hair, who is no more than 6 months old.
Okay. And in particular, I think you had expressed that Bourbon, the female chocolate lab, I believe she was purchased from Lazy Lab Kennels, and we're gonna button up all that data. But she had been away at a obedience school. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And how long had she been back when this incident occurred?
I believe that when this thing was going on, we knew. I think it had been a day. I think she had been back a little more than a day.
Okay. And when you were talking with Gloria before she was taken away, did she describe the chain of events in any way to you? Obviously, she was out of it.
She indicated that the dogs had caused her to fall.
Okay. And she was at the base of the front steps.
She was.
When you arrived.
My understanding was she was sitting on the base of the steps when I arrived. Now, my understanding from my wife, when she found her, she was unconscious, and her head was on the landing area, and her feet were up the steps.
So she was upside down.
Well, I think she was laying on her back or on her side, but her feet were up on like the second step, and her head was on the ground. So she was literally on the steps with her head down on the brick landing area.
Okay. And did Gloria live here at the property?
No, she did not.
Okay. Do you know what her how far away her home is?
I don't know her exact address, but I know that Gloria lived in Furman, South Carolina.
Okay.
So that's about 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Okay.
It's in Hampton County.
And how long would you estimate that Gloria had been doing work for you and or your family?
She's been working for our family for, close to 20 years, I would estimate. I know she babysat my children when my youngest was an infant, so he's 19.
All right.
So.
And she was paid along. She was not a full-time employee.
She was an hourly, she would be paid by the hour when she would work.
Okay. All right. And I know we had gone over that the obedience school is run by Brett Lawson, and you're gonna tie down the rest of that information for me.
I'm gonna get Brett Lawson's. I'm gonna get what paperwork he has. I'm gonna get vet records, and I'm gonna get the genealogical papers on Bourbon.
Okay. And when was the last time you would estimate that Gloria had worked for either you or your wife Maggie here at the house prior to this event?
Gloria did something. She was routinely doing things for us. So whether it was running errands, whether it was doing something at the Hampton house, or doing something out here, it would have been in the very recent past.
It would have been within 14 days.
Certainly within 14 days.
Okay.
Probably less than that.
All right. And she was familiar with Bubba, Blue, and Sassy. Did she ever have any problems with any of those dogs?
No.
Okay.
She was familiar with them, and she would have been familiar with Bourbon before she went off to. I don't know if we ever had her. I'm trying to think. I don't know that we ever had Bourbon at home before, but she was certainly familiar with Bourbon. With Bubba, Blue, and Sassy.
Okay. Did she, during the course when she would be working for you, would she feed the dogs?
Sure.
Okay.
There've been occasions where she did.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm trying to think of anything. Did you ever have any other incidences involving any problems with the dogs being aggressive or any similar? I guess any kind of incident with a complaint about the dogs.
We've never had any issue with any of the dogs being vicious or aggressive in the sense of violence or biting or attacking or any of that. And the problem is, and why we sent Bourbon to obedience school is, as I told you earlier, she's so hyper, she would all the dogs get stirred up and they compete to be petted and to get attention. And so, what I'm assuming happened is when Gloria pulled up, the dogs are, rushing her.
For affection.
And
not aggression, but affection.
And Bourbon had only been back for a day or so. So, The way they all do when Bourbon's here is different than they do when it's just them.
Okay. So the people that were on site when the ambulance came were you, your wife Maggie, your son Paul, and an employee of yours, Ronnie Freeman.
That's correct.
And was anybody with Gloria when she drove up? I assume she drove her own car here?
That's correct.
And was there anybody in the car with her?
No, sir.
Okay. So there was no witness to the chain of events?
To the fall itself?
Right.
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And do you have any surveillance cameras around the exterior of the home?
No, sir.
Okay. Alec, I've tried to go over everything I can think of. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
All right. With nothing else to add, I'll be concluding the interview at this time. And again, I'd like to ask if you understood I recorded it.
Yes, sir.
And I did so with your permission.
Yes, sir.
She really wasn't responsive to us the whole time she was in the hospital.
Yeah.
From the day she got in the hospital till the day she died, she could not tell us what happened.
Gloria's in the hospital, and Alec came home one day and he said that he just went and visited her. And then I think it was like 2 days later that she had died. Paul took Gloria's death very hard. He cried and he hurt. I remember leaving her funeral and he was just in the truck with me and he was just going over stories that he had with her and memories, and so he was very affected by Gloria's death. But the day that I found out that she was tripped and she had broken ribs and a really bad brain injury, I just felt in my heart that like something had happened to her and it wasn't by the dogs. Mr. Alex, he was a very hard person to read. And at the time, he was severely addicted to painkillers. You know, Paul would stay the weekend at the house and just make sure like his dad was detoxing. And I stayed there one time and Alex already a really pale man, but at that point you could like see through him because he's on the couch and he's just like rocking on the couch and completely pale. Like it was heartbreaking to watch, but Paul really wanted to help his dad. There was this time where Miss Gloria had found drugs taped in little baggies under Alex's bed in Hampton. Paul was really protective over his dad's health. Paul was aware of his drug use, so Gloria wanted to let Paul know because Gloria was scared to go to Maggie about it. She might have been scared that she was going to lose her job, or Maggie would say that she was snooping or something. This was early 2018, within the same year that she had died.
She knew too much.
So you think Gloria knew too much and that's why Gloria's not here?
Mm-hmm.
When she died, I began hearing rumors. I was at the hardware store one day and somebody saw Maggie Murdaugh walk by and they said, "There goes old Maggie Murdaugh." And I said, "Why are you calling that lady that?" And they said, "Well, you know, she pushed the housekeeper down the stairs." One version of the rumor was that Paul pushed the housekeeper downstairs. One version was that Maggie did it.
I never really understood it, but there's been rumors, you know, hearsay that Paul might have had something to do with her death, and I'll tell you right now, in the whole world, that's a lie. He never hurt her.
I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my wife Maggie, and I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my son Paul. I would never hurt Maggie Murdaugh. I would never hurt Paul Murdaugh, under any circumstances.